Now, what does Anandaism and self-realization fellowship contribute to our understanding of something of the ideal that we can take from different religions, different major religions, at least, and find some common ground, some harmony, some love between the two? The value of each. That's an incredible contribution, isn't it? It's a step towards our ability to harmonize and to love. Vital. A prerequisite to entering heaven. That you're not going to cause disruption and disturbance there, and factions and division. Has it really taken more than 2,000 years for man to realize that each religion, each view of God has something to contribute to the fuller picture of the way to go, the way to understand God? You know, Hinduism with its guru tradition, well, that illustrated throwing up the most bizarre individuals at times, didn't it? The sort of chaos of the belief that you can find the right guru and then everything will be hunky-dory and fine. I mean, you just end up with the most weird view of religion very often. And you might think that Paramahansa is the same, but I think not. He deliberately chose to be intelligible to the West. And he'd come to rescue the West as he understood it spiritually. And a pretty good job he made of it too. SRF, which was developed by him, seemed to have gone down the monastic road, and well, monastic life has something to be said for it. And the Ananda solution, which is communities as the solution to man in the 21st century, well, that's probably the major contribution of Hinduism to the West. Interesting thing crosses my mind is Theosophical Society. Clearly, the first vegetarians really in the West introduced all sorts of reforms, were an astonishing reform to the narrow-mindedness of Christianity, produced the liberal Catholic Church, which seems to be a bit sterile, not really got very far, but an attempt to combine Christianity with Eastern religions. I think Paramahansa has done it rather more successfully. Well, more successfully from the point of view of the 21st century, anyway. Rudolf Steiner, what a contribution when it came to schools, the understanding of children. The whole point of knowing God as Father is that you realize what your position is as a child, and how children are treated by God, and how we should treat children. What an insight. Wow. The rest of much of what Steiner comes up with seems pretty weird, fanciful, might be some staggering revelation, but doesn't look promising really, not from most people's point of view. While we're on the subject, Krishnamurti, I don't feel the man's life is the pathway to joy and happiness, just his appearance and manner, but what a wonderful personification of not being trapped by what your religion seems to be demanding of you that you're going to be the next avatar in the world. You know, the Theosophical Society rescued him, and I think his brother, was it, from the beach, and built them up to be the new revelation, and he just rebelled, and no way does he want to be part of this organizational, religious type structure, which he recognized Theosophy was, despite its declared objectivity in pursuit of truth. In pursuit of truth, I should say. Fascinating world, isn't it? Absolutely fascinating. Thank you, Heavenly Father. There's Eastern Orthodox too, isn't there? The fundamental statement that not everyone's view of what is right religion is the same, and has a right to survive in its own right, giving a different view of God. Something I was saying to a friend of mine at church who was driving on at me for an hour and a half. I was saying, well, I recognize this mountain from the town I see it from. If I have a picture of it from a different direction, say from due south, I don't recognize it. We just have a different view of God. We're both right, in a sense. Both unacceptable to the other. It's just nonsense. It's the same mountain. There's the Rosicrucians, isn't there? The emphasis on the heart. It's not all intellectualism. Well, I mean, they may be guilty of quite a bit of intellectualism, but it's of the heart. It's an inner communion that can guide you. More of a sort of feeling, thinking, inner experience. And it seems to be nurtured by this variety of emotional experience in the world, both joy and suffering. No knowledge really much of Rosicrucian understanding, and you might have a lot more. And each of us, I think, can supply what we think our particular view contributes to our understanding, our overall understanding of God. And that's lovely. I think it's the foundation that we are unique. We have a unique conception or misconception of the divine, and it helps make up something quite fantastic. Some impression of God in our being. Each tree in the garden adds something to the overall loveliness of nature. How's that? Thank you, Heavenly Father. Goodness, I should have added, shouldn't I? And secular, scientific religion, as I call it. Its God seems to be objective truth, as it defines it, something that can be measured and weighed, and you can have data on that's unambiguous in some sense, or at least that's the sort of feel of it. What does this belief system contribute? Well, it contributes a very comfortable standard of living in many ways. It's got its problems, this high standard of living that we have, but it seems to be the envy of the rest of the world. And not only that, but the devotion to rationality. Not quite truth. Everyone feels they're devoted to the truth. But rationality. that, hang on, what is our logical structure? Our reasoning is everything in determining our theory, because our theory is also everything to us. It's going to be what determines what we can do, what we think we can do, and what we can't. If we don't have a theory, we can't infer from the theory what could be created, and therefore we don't hope for such. Whereas our theories give us some hope as to how we might achieve the goals that we value, and even what those goals can reasonably be, and launch us with a volition, a willingness, a hope that we can achieve it, and we experiment and see if the theory holds up. In other words, it presents us with a reasoning path towards materializing our hopes and desires. And you apply that sort of rationality, that sort of pattern of behavior to the spiritual, and you get good returns. What seems to work? When I do something, is it validated by the outcome? Or is it just, for instance, is faith just a recklessness that ruins lives? People get wiped out and they needn't have been. People sacrifice and they needn't have sacrificed. People hold to one particular principle despite the fact it's clearly bringing unhappiness, chaos, strife, war. Perhaps they got it wrong. We've got the theory wrong. Should we have another look? Do you see this pattern of behavior that's been generated, driven by perhaps materialistic desires, has produced a pattern of behavior that is invaluable when it comes to sorting through the jungle of possible different religious beliefs that one could have, and their validity. A sort of acid test. Does it work? For instance, my obsession with, I call it my one, I should call it Merlin Carruthers' one. Yes, that's the book, Prison to Praise. Read it, it's a fascinating book. And when you read the answers to praise and praise works, 2 sequel books, wow, you can't help but be moved. Certainly moved to tears, but moved probably into a new dynamism for your Christianity, or for any religion. But yes, to come back to it, my obsession with practicing thankfulness, does it work? Do I find a joy from this? Wow, do I find a joy? Do I find the day starts to every day seems to be wonderful. I'm just amazed the way God unfolds it. Lovely days he gives me, keeps giving me lovely days. I mean, it's not fair to lock him in here, but it is right to say that the fruits of just being thankful are greater than, more miraculous than any other practice I've come across. Absolutely lovely. And thankfulness on people and your interpersonal relationships with other people. Just thankfulness to them. They're appreciated. They blossom. I don't want to bond them into, burden them, but, lock them into a behavior because it's now expected of them, but to thank someone for being a blessing to you. So important. Practice it. But more importantly, practice continual thankfulness to God, and you'll be blessed. So that's what martialism contributes. I'll call it martialism, okay? It'll do. Thank you, Heavenly Father. thank you for this rather nice ending from my point of view. Too, I didn't expect to say what I always say, but it does seem appropriate. Thank you, Heavenly Father.